Thanks very much. Good morning. I'd like to start by thanking Mike Sraga and other friends from the Wilson Center for inviting me. I'd also like to thank President Grimson and Alice Rogoff and commend you for your ongoing leadership of the Arctic Circle and the way you've partnered with the Wilson Center to create this event. And finally, I want to thank the government of Finland, Ambassador Kauppi. It's such a comfort to me to know that the Arctic Council is in such good hands now that the U.S. chairmanship has drawn to an end. So I began my career at the Department of State in 1985. The Cold War was still underway, although it ended a few years after that. And just more or less as it was ending, I began, perhaps coincidentally, to start working with the Russian Federation on a variety of things over the years. And I've had an interesting window on the U.S.-Russian relationship all the years since. And I can honestly say that in my time, I have not experienced a moment when the relationship has been filled with as many difficulties as it is at present. And that's saying something. I'd also say it's also one of the more peculiar times in the relationship in any number of ways. And yet, as other speakers have pointed out, and I too point out, it seems as though the Arctic is an exception. The United States and Russia, I would say Russia and all the other nations in the Arctic have found ways to continue to cooperate in the Arctic, particularly, but not only through the Arctic Council, despite the difficulties on other issues and relating to other parts of the world. And so I'd like to highlight a few examples of that cooperation, but then ask perhaps a more important question: why? Why has it been possible to continue to cooperate in the Arctic in these times? So my last 10 years or so, I focused quite a lot on the Arctic Council. Senator Murkowski mentioned that the recent agreement signed in Fairbanks on scientific cooperation was produced through a process co-chaired by the U.S. and Russia, and that is true. She didn't mention, but is also true, that the first two binding agreements to come through the Arctic Council process, one on search and rescue and one on oil pollution preparedness and response, were also co-chaired by the United States and Russia. In the case of the oil pollution agreement, also by Norway. But it does demonstrate that our two countries, the United States and Russia, have been leading on at least these types of issues. And more broadly, through the last 2 years of the U.S. chairmanship, I can tell you firsthand that the success of the U.S. chairmanship, and I do think it was successful, could not have been achieved without the active and willing cooperation from Russia and, of course, all other members. It's not that everybody agreed on everything at the outset, but there was an authentic and sincere desire to work hard, to find common ground, and to resolve differences. Outside the Arctic Council as well, I've been working with colleagues from Russia on issues relating to the Bering Sea and polar bears, as mentioned earlier. Russia and some other countries signed in 2015 a declaration relating to Arctic fisheries, and we are, at the moment, still in negotiation toward a possible agreement on Arctic fisheries. Again, signs of strong cooperation. Why? Why is this possible today when so many other things seem so difficult? And I think it is mostly that we have common interests in the Arctic. And first and foremost, we want the Arctic to remain a stable, peaceful, rule-based part of the world. It is that today. When you think of other parts of the world that are subject to armed conflict, terrorism, forced migration, narco-trafficking or other trafficking in humans, hardly any of that occurs in the Arctic today, and frankly, I think it's a low-threat region for those sorts of things. It's not that the Arctic is without its challenges, it is, but those challenges are primarily socioeconomic and environmental. And the nations of and the peoples of the Arctic need a stable, peaceful, rules-based environment in which to try to address these things. And we need each other. We need to share each other's science and best practices. On search and rescue, has been mentioned, we need each other. If problems, as almost certainly will happen, incidents occur in the Arctic, we need to cooperate to address them. Oil pollution and other pollution, again, no one nation can work on this successfully alone. Yes, we need each other. There was a question this morning about whether there's any serious sovereignty in dispute in the Arctic. The answer is no. The national boundaries are all well established. Yeah, there's one small island that both Canada and Denmark claim, but I'd say that's very well managed and not really a dispute at all. There are a few maritime boundaries, including between the U.S. and Canada, that are not resolved, but I wouldn't call that a dispute as such. It is something we're still working on. There are efforts to delineate the outer limits of the continental shelves in the Arctic, but that is too proceeding under the rules set by the Law of the Sea Convention in a peaceful and orderly way. And so we need each other to keep the Arctic stable in order to address the real problems there, and I think that helps to account for why we are able to continue to cooperate despite difficulties elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Balton.